Did you know that while the world was watching Johnny Depp's every move, analyzing his movies, his clothes, his love life, his courtroom battles, he was out there quietly helping people who needed him the most? And he never bragged about it. Never tweeted it. Never stood on a stage and announced it. He just did it. Without needing anyone to clap for him. And honestly, doesn't that kind of blow your mind? Because these days, everyone seems to want a round of applause for every good thing they do. Every random act of kindness is documented, hashtagged, and shared. And yet here's one of the biggest stars on the planet, and his best work? He hides it. He keeps it between him and the people he helps. There's something almost old-fashioned about that. When I first heard some of these stories, I'll admit, I was surprised too. Because we've all seen the headlines, right? The scandals, the bad press, the ugly courtroom drama. But underneath all of that, there's this other side to Johnny that very few people ever talk about. The part of him that just quietly shows up for strangers, just because he can. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. Don't you? So let me take you into that world for a few minutes. Johnny has always been uncomfortable with attention. Sounds funny, I know, coming from an actor. But it's true. He's said before that he's shy, almost painfully so. He never wanted to be famous for the sake of being famous. He just wanted to make art. And he's carried that same attitude into his charity work. He's not the kind of guy who calls the press when he writes a check. He doesn't want his name on a plaque. He doesn't care about being labeled a philanthropist in glossy magazines. If you ask him about it, he usually just shrugs and says something like, "It's not a big deal." But the people he's helped? They'd probably say otherwise. One of the most touching things he does, and he's been doing it for over a decade, is dressing up as Captain Jack Sparrow and visiting kids in hospitals. Not just any kids. These are kids fighting for their lives. Kids hooked up to machines, kids who've spent more time in hospital rooms than playgrounds. Kids who, for just one afternoon, get to forget about all of that because a pirate walked through the door. And let me tell you, he doesn't have to it. He goes all out. Full costume, full makeup, full swagger, staying completely in character the entire time. He walks into the room as Captain Jack, jokes around, tells silly pirate stories, even asks kids to help him find treasure. And he doesn't rush through it either. Some celebrities will pop in, say a quick hello, snap a photo, and leave. Not Johnny. He sits with them. He talks to them. He asks about their favorite cartoons, what games they like to play, what they want to be when they grow up. He makes every child feel like they matter. There's this story of one little boy whose mother said he hadn't smiled in days. He was just too sick. Too tired. Then Johnny walked in, well, Captain Jack walked in, and that boy lit up. His whole face changed. And he didn't stop smiling the whole time Johnny was there. Can you imagine how that felt for his mom? That memory probably stayed with her forever. And here's something you might not know, he doesn't announce these visits. He doesn't tell anyone ahead of time. The hospital staff often doesn't even know he's coming. He just shows up. Because it's not about the cameras. It's about the kids. But his kindness doesn't stop there. Over the years, Johnny has donated millions to hospitals, shelters, food banks, programs for the homeless. And he never makes it a big deal. He's even been known to quietly pay off medical bills for complete strangers. There was one story, you won't find it in a tabloid, about a single father. His little girl needed an expensive surgery. He didn't have the money. A mutual friend reached out to Johnny privately, and Johnny quietly paid the entire bill. No one even told the father who covered it. Johnny didn't want thanks. He just wanted that little girl to have her chance. And when people ask him why he does it, he usually just shrugs. says something like, "Why wouldn't I?" But I think part of the answer goes back to his childhood. Johnny didn't grow up in Hollywood mansions. He grew up poor. Really poor. In a house that was often filled with chaos and pain. He's talked before about how he felt powerless as a kid. How he promised himself that if he ever made it, he'd do what he could to help people who felt like he used to feel. And he's kept that promise. Isn't that refreshing? In a world where it feels like everyone is desperate to prove what a good person they are, here's Johnny Depp just quietly doing good things when no one's watching. Now here's the thing, we can all learn something from him. First of all, you don't need to be rich or famous to make someone's day better. Even the smallest act, holding the door open, giving someone a smile, paying for the person behind you in line, those little things matter. Second, you don't need to broadcast your kindness. When you do something just because it feels right, not because you want credit, that's when it really counts. And third, you don't have to wait until you feel ready to help someone. You can start where you are, with what you have. One of my favorite quotes about Johnny comes from a nurse at a hospital he visited. She said, "He doesn't just visit. He stays. He listens. He cares. And the kids feel it." And that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? Caring. Letting people feel seen. We all have that power, no matter who we are. And you know what? Kindness spreads. Even if you don't see it, even if no one tells you, your actions have a ripple effect. Think about it. What's one small thing someone did for you that you never forgot? Was it a teacher who believed in you? A stranger who helped you when your car broke down? A neighbor who showed up with soup when you were sick? Those moments stick with us. So now I'd love for you to take a moment and share your story. What's one act of kindness that changed your day, or maybe even your life? Drop it in the comments. I'd really love to read it. And if you've enjoyed this story about Johnny Depp today, if it made you smile, or feel inspired, or just gave you a little faith in people, I think you're going to love the next video we have lined up. It's about another Hollywood star who's quietly paying for kids' education in low-income neighborhoods. Another story that doesn't get enough attention. So when this video ends, make sure you click over and watch that one too. And hey, if you felt even a little inspired today, could you do me a favor? Hit that like button. It actually helps more than you think. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe now. And turn on notifications so you never miss another story like this one. Because the truth is, we all need a little more good news in our lives, don't we? Thanks for spending this time with me today. It really means a lot. And I'll see you in the next one.